Damn it. Yep, minicam is back up. Face cam is dead though. Nope. Damn it. What is up, Facey Cam? All right, give me a second. I'm gonna go under the desk. I'm going down under the desk. What the heck? Let's add a new source. Face cam. Add source. Oh, the old camera's not even there. I don't think. Ha! Aha! Ah! There I am. Let's fix this. Good? Good. Okay. Alright, where was I? Percival. Talking about stuff. Weird. Obviously, my computer is telling me I have too many webcams running. And I'm not even showing the kitten cam. I mean, she's not there. So, I've only got 2 going. 3 going. I've only got 3. What's it complaining about? Come on. Percy's face. Percy's face. That's what we're working on. Working on Percy's face. I was gonna grab some of this. It is the Army Painter bar. What the? Are you kidding me? This one. It's the minicam. It's the important one. What the hell is going on? Excuse me. Back under. Where'd you go? Where'd you go? Which one is that one? Da, 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 da. Nope. 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 1, 2, 3. Around the corner. Sorry, guys. Typical, right? Video capture device. Webcam. Add. Now it's in the front, but it's still doing the same thing. I've completely lost the ability to show the main bit of my content. Everything else is moving. Facecam is back. What the crap? Sorry, guys. This is turning out to be a real pain in the butt. You guys still hear me in chat? Or has that gone dead? Yeah, I can't get the oh. Aha! I found you. All right, is that? Yeah, there we go. Thanks for sticking with me. It's the first time that started happening, which is interesting. All right, so like I was saying, I'm attempting to use this stuff for Percy's face so that he doesn't have jaundice. Because right now, he's got some jaundice. Some serious jaundice. Put a little teeny bit of that right there. And we're going to water it down a bit. Because I want it to be heckin' smooth. Alright, let's get to it. I wonder how long it was frozen before I noticed it. Hopefully it wasn't too crazy. It's true. that is true. I'm gonna go back and forth to the water a bit because, like I said, I want this to go on pretty darn smooth. So I'm thinning this down quite a bit. Got a crazy smirk going on in his face. I don't like that his left cheek is not coating. Seems a little strange. You guys see this all right? Can you see this guy's smirk? Look at this. Look at that smirk. Okay. I need a little flesh tone. Gonna grab a little bit of the Army Shader Flesh Wash because the stuff is pretty awesome. Put a little teeny bit of it. I'm not gonna go berserk. That should be dry, considering I didn't use hardly any. And then we're going to start getting the flesh tone on his face proper. And I am using my detail brush to do this so that I can get it in the right spot. I'll let that dry a bit. Right side of his face looks pretty good. Left side of his face looks okay. We'll come back to it in a moment. Because now I'm going to grab the dark tone. Army Painter Dark Tone. One of my favorite tools. Put it over here, and I'm going to put a fairly large amount of it over there because this I'm going to use on the coat. And I'm curious to see how much this takes care of painting the coat. So, time to go nuts. And I'm going to put it directly over his ruff as well, his collary bit. Pretty much. It's not going to get it as dark as I want it, so I might do more than one layer of this. Because I'd like this to be a pretty dark gray. Cheat sauce. I can be pretty generous because I basically want to cover everything that I've painted so far with this. I'll lighten it up over the collar. Blab, 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 blab. Blab, blab, blab. So what I'm seeing is that I actually should have gone with a darker gray, but this might still look awesome. And I'm going to need more. Now a lot of this is going to run down underneath, which is okay. I don't mind. Because I really do want this to darken up a bit. It could be interesting. Like I said, I'd like this coat to be a little darker. So I'm going back and I'm adding a little more in a couple of places. But it means it's going to take a little while to dry. Yeah, my camera's got all screwy dead. I don't know what was going on. Yep. Now this is going to take a bit to dry. Like I said. It's going to take a minute for it to really kind of set in. But like I said, I'm probably going to want to do another coat of this. A 1/4 of an inch? Like just a full mini that's this big? Fizz? You talking like something super wee? Hold on a second. So I've got these seriously old, seriously small horsemen. Move you over for a second, Percy, so I do not get a whole bunch of crap on you. These guys are only about an inch tall. So, half the size of Keyleth here. Pretty small. Pretty much the same way. It's not too difficult. Because they're so much smaller, it's hard to really get in and do a lot of detail work. So what you want to do is you want to hit it with a base coat of a medium color, maybe a little darker, and then go over with a dry brush a little bit to start picking out where some of the details are. Like this helmet right here, it's got 2 little eye slits in it, and it could potentially have some vent holes in the front of it, but it's tiny and it's lead. So what I would probably end up doing is just doing a little bit of a dry brush around the face, and then dry brushing around the tabard. Because they're tiny and you might not get a lot of detail out of them, you can get away with a straight up dry brush and get a whole bunch of them done at the same time, Fizz. You can basically have 5 or 6 of these guys, which is what I have to have up on my shelf at the moment. I've got half a dozen of these that are looking to get painted, and it'll be real fast because it's just, you know, quick color, dry brush for a contrast, and then if there are other parts to it, snag those with a very, very light dry brushing with a detail brush. Possibly grab the edge of the brush and bring it in. Are you doing epic scale miniatures from Games Workshop? Because that's the only thing I know of that's super small like that. That and Napoleonics. And Napoleonics, you just got to be careful. Pick out a couple edges, do a little bit of detail, and if you want, do a light wash after it with either the Army Painter dark tone or one of the medium shades in there to kind of give it some depth if it's dirty. The Army Painter has shades of a whole bunch of different colors, I think. So if you want to take a peek at that, that's also something you can do. But things of that scale, you get away with it with a base coat and a dry brush most of the time, and then you go back in with a detail brush and pick out some other stuff. If it's a rifle, or if it's a flag, or if you're doing the base or something like that. The little guys, meh. You can only get so detailed. Your bristles only get so small. Came with a very small person you have to paint. What was the model? Is it like a standard size mini with like a tiny little imp next to it or something? I'm curious. Maybe I'll look it up and take a peek. Ah, that's one of my favorite animes. And it's a miniature. Is it a scale mini for it? And does it have a person standing next to it? Cowboy Bebop swordfish model. Let me see what it looks like. Aha! It does. It has a tiny spike. Yeah, the swordfish has spikes. Apparently it has a tiny spike. Very cool. Give me a good picture. Yeah, he's teeny weeny. Um, that's what I would probably do. Luckily, he's mostly one color. So if you have a fine detail brush, you can get in there, do a base coat on the skin, then do his jacket over that, get his hair, and then if you want to get some contrast in, a very, very, very light high brushing around the edges, fold of his jacket, that kind of stuff. And you will most likely be satisfied with the results. Yeah, he's tiny. That's funny. That's a cool mini though. It's a cool model. I like it. Oh, they even have... Nice. 1/72nd scale. Holy crap. Very cool. I'm a fan. I approve. Yeah, the thing is he's so tiny. It's gonna be hard to see. And if you do a base coat, yeah, if you do a base coat of the skin, make sure make sure your paint goes on as smooth as you can get it. So you want it to be watered down, and you want the brush to have very little paint on it, so it doesn't fill in the cracks. And once you get that taken care of and get some of a base coat on for the skin, you can step back into it, and then you can hit it with a dry brush, a very, very light dry brush with a very small brush, either like a Games Workshop detail brush or this guy right here, this Vallejo number 3. That'll do it. This will also do it. So either of these brushes should be able to do it, because both of them have very fine points. And since they both have very fine points, it means that when you're dragging it over those luprate sections, if you're using it like a tiny little dry brush, you should be able to pick up some of it. And then, man, you could almost... Yeah, then I would take a standard brush, standard size brush, and I would probably hit it with... really, you could probably get in there and do like a flesh tone on his skin and leave it be, and then I would probably take a nice wash down Army Painter dark tone. And if you did that, then you could probably get the details that you're looking for. But yeah, this one is good. So go with the detail, do a dry brush with a detail, and snag one of the standard brushes. So either the Citadel standard or this Vallejo paint. They're basically both the same size brush roughly, and you can just hit that with a quick and very thin ink wash, and it should seep into the cracks. So if he does actually have an expression on his face and some facial features, you should be able to pick it out with that. Give that a try. Are we dry here yet? Not quite. Like I said, it's going to take a little while, but I feel like this is going to look pretty good. Definitely darkened up his coat quite a bit. And then we can start thinking about in here and what we'd like to do. With the inside of his coat. That's such a nice big area, and it's a nice big flat area. I want that to be a splash of color on the mini. Yeah, you're welcome, Fizz. Thanks for asking. You should take pictures when you're done. Show us what happened. Pop the follow button, come back in. We'll do a couple of different things. I'm almost done with the Critical Role minis from the first the first campaign. Hey, thanks, buddy. And then we'll go and I'll grab some other stuff in between before I start the second Critical Role minis, but I'm going to grab a whole bunch of funny little things. I've got a lot of funky miniatures to work on, and I'd like to snag some of the ones, or put some of the ones on that I'm trying to get together for commissions. So yeah, stick around. I love the question. And man, that's Kind of makes me want to go back and get that mini and paint it. I have not watched that in a really long time. All right, what can I work on here while we wait for this to dry down low? What can we do? What can we do? Should I snag Doty? We'll take a quick look at Doty. I feel like he's going to be pretty easy to paint. Where the other minis have a bunch of detail and stuff, he is entirely made of metal. He's got some shoulder straps, and a book, and a quill, and a backpack. So I'm thinking he'll be a quick one. So why don't I do base coat on him while we're waiting on Percy to finish up. Let's get back into this gray foundation as it has completely dried itself up. All right. I like working with this gray. I need to pick up some more slate gray because this poor old pot, it's like 15 years old. I really need to figure out how I can play music for you guys. Because I'm going to sit here kind of grooving along, pop my head. You're going to be like, what's he doing? Doty might get the trinket treatment. He might be the one I use as the in-between for doing some of the other stuff. Because I gotta wait for Percy to dry up. That's the big deal with the ink washes, is you really need to give them a moment. Let them rest. Let them rest so that you can get the right... It really does need to dry up, or else you're gonna start smearing it. $21 more followers and I get my associate status, which would be super nice. So Fizz, do you play D&D? Do you play other miniature games, or do you just like to collect and paint some of the scale figures? Because that's totally valid. And I appreciate folks who just get things to paint as well. You don't have to paint game pieces. We've been talking a lot of D&D tonight because I'm painting D&D minis. But I have done Blood Bowl minis on stream. Done Battletech minis. Nice. Yeah, I used to run a games workshop, and one of the things I really enjoyed doing was the painting tutorials, teaching kids how to paint. I say kids, a lot of the customers, like half of my customers were parents of the kids or older guys who were kind of getting into it, who had been maybe playing the game for a while but didn't necessarily embrace the painting until they got to hang out for a while and started seeing some cool paint jobs from some of the new guys who came in to play the hobby. So I figured I have some painting to do. Why not show people? Absolutely. Nice to see you in chat, Karai. Karai is in my monthly game. They play the druid that heals my big butt, that I am very thankful for having. Yep, it's true. Yeah, between there have been some encounters where I have taxed the limits of both the druid and the bard's healing abilities and the two paladins in the party. Like, I tend to make myself a pretty big freaking target. Removing bits and adding new bits and things like that. Yes, I used to do it all the time. The most major conversion I had done was in collaboration with a friend of mine while we worked at Games Workshop. When the years ago, I want to date myself right here. Years ago, when the brand new plastic giant kit came out, we, as a company, all the stores were tasked with painting up. All the stores in a region were tasked with putting together one of those kits, painting it up, and sending it down to the headquarters in Glen Burnie, Maryland. And my coworker, my friend, we will call him Adam, and I started brainstorming how we were going to do it. We pulled the kit apart. We started looking at stuff. We were like, okay, so everyone's going to do a giant with these bits, and they'll look cool, and they're all coming from our stores, so they'll look awesome. So the crazy thing we ended up doing was we were like, well, how about we do one of the big old like orc and goblin slave giant thingies. So we started thinking about how to put them together, and I was like, well, what if we gave him a peg leg? And we were like, okay, that could be really funny. So we started thinking about how I could get him a peg leg, and I was like, okay, so it's giant. Why don't we just take a wagon wheel and attach it to an ankle and give him a wheel like he's got a Healy on? And then it went from there to literally cutting him in half, chopping him down, adjusting his leg position, using one of the siege towers to make him a giant siege wheelchair. And we made a giant and a huge wheelchair with tiny goblins running around the wheels like hamsters to get him going forward. So yeah, he was fantastic. And they never sent him back to us because I am honest, I think the management down there kept that sucker because I went down to the shop and he was in the case. And then like a year or two later for a meeting, I went down in the shop and he was somewhere else in the case. Yeah, we used to go crazy. We used to have a lot of fun. I've converted full minis. I've gone crazy with it. I converted a Dark Eldar Talos, which is a hovering war machine, into a giant scorpion with bits from an entirely different Warhammer 40k kit. So yeah, you can go nuts. You can go pretty berserk. And as far as the smallest detail I've done, I converted a Dark Elf. I built my own Dark Elf Lord miniature for my Warhammer Fantasy Army and I adjusted his hand because I wanted him to have a knife in it in a weird like reverse position because he was dashing past somebody or something along those lines. And I actually used green stuff and sculpted new fingers. So I cut his hand because he had a fist. So what I had to do is get in there and adjust the finger position so that he was actually grabbing the proper part of the knife hilt. So instead of being a fist, because I wanted it to be correctly gripped, the handle itself, the fingers were done almost like a tennis grip around the thing. So I had to resculpt his index, his middle, and his ring finger. I've done hair. I've done all sorts of stuff. If you've got the modeling putty for it, it's not that difficult. But yeah, you can go as big or as small as you want. I've got essentially what look like dentistry tools over here in one of my kits for sculpting that stuff. So I got this guy. It's a tiny little like putty knife. And I also sometimes use this. So and thank you, Peach. I appreciate the validation that I was not taxing the GM's patience. It's not bad. It really isn't. The trick is finding the right medium for it. I've only ever worked in the old Citadel green stuff, which is the 2-part sculpting putty, where you have to take out little bits and you roll them together until they turn green as a yellow and a blue one. That's why it's called green stuff. And go from there. Okay, we're still a little bit wet around the edges, but the bottom of the coat is looking great. Okay, and the grooves is still damp. It's actually not too bad. I darkened appropriately and smoothly, which I like. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Okay, still going there. Yeah, I'm just happy to have hit the top end because I was theory crafting the numbers and going for the averages, and it seems to be working out. And Fizz, that's the right way to make characters as far as I'm concerned. Start with the concept, work the mechanics in afterward, hang them out, and you'll be happy with the results and playing them that way. And thanks, Neff. Yeah, I do think that the detail on the back is looking pretty awesome. I kind of want to hit that with the lightest bit of silver. So we're going to get in there. How's your face looking? Your face is all right. But that's actually dry, which means I can get in there and play around with Getting some highlights on his face while the rest of the coat dries. Just got to be careful not to touch the coat bit. And I'm going to water this down a lot just to make sure it goes on smooth. Roll the brush. Grab him by his dome. Tap the end of his nose. Tap his chin. Get his forehead taken care of. Touch the ear on the side. Get his cheekbone here. Get the edge of his chin. Yeah, I like that. And then we'll pick out the edge of his lip. Yeah. Now I feel like getting that. I mean, it's a role-playing game. You're there to play the character. You're there to figure out that character's reactions to certain situations. And the best way to do that is to have an idea of the concept of their personality prior to going in and getting lost in the mechanics. And then you work the mechanics off of that. Because if you have a really solid idea about how they're going to deal with a situation, then ultimately what happens is the abilities of a character come up kind of organically. Oh no! Is it not tracking me? Move over here. Okay, and move over here. Okay. You gotta follow me lower. Oh no! That sucks. I mean, was it legit? Was it like a legit Jon Snowing? We're talking off the wall, right? We're not talking end of the series, which I didn't watch because I've read the books. But got it. Yeah. I mean, that stuff, it happens. Usually you hope it doesn't become a regular thing. I mean, it's one of those things where I would imagine you'd have to make sure that you and the GM were on the same page when it came to expectation. Right. So, the question is, no. Drunk DMs are how people end up with too many wands of magic missiles. I am not exaggerating one little bit. When the bard has him in hip holsters and he just whips them out and fans the hammer, it makes the low level encounters go very quickly. All right. So a quick question. Yeah. Quick question. Doty. What color should we make Doty? Are we going to go a dark metallic? Are we going to go brass? Are we going full C3PO? Or are we going Iron Giant? Oh, man. C3PO? So we're working from stages. We've got a dark tin color, which will be probably highlighted with a brassy color on the edges. We can start, we can go with straight gold and do some washes and get some detail that way. Or I can basically have him as is with the gunmetal metallic dry brush, and a gunmetal metallic dry brush will give him sort of an Iron Giant feel. Your call, Delirium. What do you think? I'm gonna bang the camera. Dunk. I mean, if he looks more like the Iron Giant than he does C3PO, but I could do a little bit each. What if I did mostly gold with metallic shoulders and shins, with the steel shoulders and shins? Mostly gold, shoulders and shins. Okay, let's put these back. We'll be working with those two. Means I don't need the dry brushes just yet, because I'm going to go back to the base coat and I'm going to put a lot of gold on him. I showed the dry brushing with Pike. Done ink washes all over the place. I've done most of the basic stuff. I'm not about to do non-metallic metallics. Good night. Another good jog. Yeah, I was jogging underneath my desk. Night, Dad. All right. Oh, man. Well, we've got him started and primed, so I can work on a color in between. And since we're getting close to the end of the night, I should probably let the inks dry on Percy, but I feel like he's come a long way this evening. And as soon as those, I'm actually really digging the way the inks worked out. We'll decide on the inner color, pick out the guns and details, get his hair finished up, get some of the bits on the belt, and then do his base. So I'm thinking Percy next time with In Between Doty, and then the final character for Critical Role Campaign 1 will be Tyrion. One of the things I'm going to do with Percy when we're getting close to the end is I'm going to make sure his boots are muddy and the bottom of his coat has a little bit of a muddy trim to it, like a muddy rim on the edge, because he's a highwayman and he's been wandering around in the dirt. So that's what we'll do next time. Finishing up details, getting some highlighting in, doing the guns and the weathering and the base. And then we'll be good. So yeah, Doty's a stand-in, possibly these two colors. I'll do a little bit of playing around. We'll figure out what's going on, and then and we'll finish those guys up next week on Tuesday. So again, 8 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday. Percy finalizing, probably Doty as well, because he's going to be a quick paint. Maybe I'll do some script inside the book, because we haven't done that on anything yet. I'm going to show you the ways I do that kind of stuff. And then we'll get on to Tarion on the Thursday after. So, have a fantastic evening, everybody. Thanks for swinging by. Thanks for hitting that follow button. If you're first time here, I appreciate the questions. We'll talk to you later, Fizz. Have a fantastic night, and good luck on the Cowboy Bebop mini. I'd love to see a picture of that when you're done. Have a fantastic night, guys. Bye.